Hello, this is the host. Today's scary stories are from Reddit. The first one is called The Wardrobe Door. It was a hot summer night in Johannesburg, South Africa. Power cuts were common. We would often have load shedding for up to 4 hours at a time. This would usually happen late at night, like 3 or 4 a.m. I was staying in a 2-bedroom house with a friend of mine. One of the bedrooms had a large built-in wardrobe, which took up most of the room. It had glass sliding doors. There was no handle on the inside and only a very small gap underneath the doors to let light in. One night we were awoken by what sounded like screams in the middle of the night. Naturally, we were scared sitting in bed, not knowing what was out there. My friend started asking out loud if everything was okay, who was there, etc. No reply. Then the wardrobe door started to shake violently as if something big was trying to break free. We were both frozen with fear sitting in the middle of the room. Then my friend got up and slowly approached the wardrobe. Each creak of the wooden floorboards as he walked closer to it made the wardrobe door shake more and more. He stood right in front of it and put his hand on the shaking door. To his surprise, it suddenly stopped. After a few seconds, we both started to calm down. We talked about how stupid it was to be scared of a wardrobe, and eventually fell back asleep. The next morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, we opened the wardrobe to find that it was empty. The weird thing was that the clothes that hung at the back were all neatly pushed to the front of the wardrobe, as if someone had been trying to get out. And that S, when we noticed a small hole that had been gnawed into the wood on the bottom of the wardrobe, where the shaking was heard. It was like the size of a badger's hole. But there was no sign of any animal getting in or out. We decided that it was probably just some wild animal, maybe a small monkey, and left it at that. A few weeks later, however, we had another scare. Again, it was in the middle of the night. The power had been cut, and we were woken by what sounded like screams again. Not long after that, we started hearing heavy footsteps in the room. Big, heavy footsteps, like someone was stamping their feet. We were again frozen with fear until my friend got up and switched on the bedside lamp. Nothing was there. After that, nothing happened, and we went back to sleep. The morning after, of course, not sleeping, we checked the wardrobe again. This time it was wide open, and the contents were strewn all over the floor. Every single thing was out of the wardrobe. At this point, we were both getting very scared and decided to take the day off work to try and figure out what was going on. We searched the whole house, the garden, everywhere outside, but couldn't find any animal or any point of entry. There was no way an animal could have gotten in, because all the windows and doors were either locked or had burglar bars. There was also no other way in. There were no loose bricks or tiles missing. The hole in the wardrobe seemed to have healed overnight too. We decided to call a priest to come and bless the house. He came and looked around and blessed the house, but nothing ever happened again. Years later, I still don't know what that noise was. I can still hear it in my nightmares. Up next is, I think I just found a new monster. I grew up on a farm in a rural area. My grandfather had owned the farm for decades, and most of it was left pretty much untouched. There was an old barn and silo that hadn't been used in years. They were just kind of left there. My family mostly kept to themselves, and we rarely had company. One weekend, though, my brother and I decided to go exploring. We found an old set of stairs leading into the loft of the barn. The stairs were very creaky and made us feel like we were going to fall through the floor. Halfway up, we found a door that led outside. From there, we went into the field behind the barn and walked around for a bit before heading home. That night, though, I woke up to what sounded like screaming in the middle of the night. Big guttural screams. Of course, being 12, I just assumed it was some wild animal and went back to sleep. In the morning, I told my mom about the noise, and she said it was probably just coyotes. I wasn't convinced, but I didn't think much of it. Fast forward a few months, and it happens again. Screams in the middle of the night. I woke up again and told my mom, who just gave me a weird look and told me to go back to sleep. A few months pass, and it happens yet again. I wake up and tell my mom, and she tells me to go clean the stalls instead of going back to bed. That's when I found the footprints. They were huge, like the size of a dinner plate. There were also claw marks in the soft earth. I ran to the house and told my mom, who finally agreed to look at the footprints. She said that they were definitely coyote tracks. I didn't believe her, but I didn't say anything. My brother and I decided to go check it out. We followed the tracks to the edge of the property, and then they disappeared. To this day, I've never heard those screams again. And whenever I look at the tracks, they're still there, just as I saw them that day. I'm not sure what they could possibly be, but whatever they are, I hope they stay away. And last is the thing in the woods. When I was younger, my dad would take my sister and I to this secluded lake about an hour away to fish. The drive was beautiful. It was always through these long, winding roads surrounded by woods on both sides. Whenever we would get to the lake, we would spend the entire day fishing and having picnics. One day, while driving there, we stopped at a gas station. As we were pumping gas, my dad went inside to use the public bathroom. My sister and I stayed in the car until he came back. When he did, he told us that he could unwash his hands because the water was unworking and the bathrooms were disgusting. On the drive there, we rolled down our windows and turned up the radio. About 20 minutes into the drive, we heard what sounded like screams in the woods. Big guttural screams. We're too busy talking to pay much attention to it. Maybe it was just some wild animal, we thought. So we drove further. The temperature in the car started to drop significantly. My sister and I started getting goosebumps. As we rounded a corner, we saw a figure standing in the middle of the road directly in front of our headlights. We slammed on the brakes and turned the wheel to avoid hitting him. I remember looking at my dad with a terrified expression on my face. He looked back at me, then back at the road, and then hit the gas and drove straight past him. He didn't even slow down. I don't know what he was, but it definitely wasn't human. To this day, I still remember the image of the creature in the middle of the road. I never want to go back to that lake. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these scary stories from Reddit, please consider leaving a like. Also check out these videos, which are also full of terrifying tales from people on the internet. And if you dare, subscribe for more frightening stories.